Welcome to HR Voices, a podcast for independent HR and people professionals and the businesses they support. HR Voices is brought to you by the expert team at HR Independence Limited. We hope you enjoy.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of HR Voices. I'm your host, Mary Asante. Over the last few weeks, we've had some incredibly important conversations about well-being in the workplace. We've explored mental health and leadership with Mike Pagan. We've discussed financial well-being and the impact money worries can have on employees and businesses with Charlie Goodman. We've examined psychological health, mental health, and remote working with Magnus Codis. And most recently, we've explored men's health in the workplace with Dr. Mani Khan. Each conversation focused on a different aspect of well-being, but what struck me most is how connected all these topics really are. So, in today's episode, I want to step back and reflect on some of the key themes that have emerged across these conversations and what they mean for HR professionals, leaders, managers, and independent consultants. So the first theme that emerged for me was people often struggle quietly. One message came through in every conversation. People rarely wake up one morning in crisis. More often, challenges build up gradually. Mike Pagan described it as drifts. Dr. Mani talked about presenteeism. Magnus discussed psychological strain and burnout. Charlie Goodman highlighted how financial stress can quietly impact every area of someone's life. The common thread is that people often continue showing up while carrying significant pressures that others cannot see. By the time performance starts to decline, or absences increase it, the issues may already have been present for weeks or even months. As HR professionals and leaders, there is a reminder that we need to look beyond what is immediately visible.
Within business, be that as individuals, leaders, C-suite, whatever our particular title is having those accountability people around us who are going to call us out for the things we say we're doing but are not doing. They can smell the BS that is coming from you when you're not doing it. And that's the awareness piece. But if you're not empowering other people to do that, then you will continue to blindly go along.
The second theme is awareness is not enough. Another consistent theme was knowing that there is a problem does not automatically create change. Many people know they are stressed. Many know they are exhausted. Many know they are worried about money. And many know they can seek help. or should seek help. Yet often they don't. Why? Because awareness and action are two different things. People may fear judgment. They may worry about how they are being perceived. They may think they should simply cope. Or they may not know where to start. Creating awareness remains extremely important, but creating pathways to support is equally important.
There's an element of mindfulness to finances that people, we don't often talk about, but ultimately a lot of the issue is with people is their lack of confidence with money comes from not actually knowing what's going on with what they're managing already. And that's, for lots of us, that's because it can be quite scary. We don't want to think of the bills coming out. But actually, in kind of ripping that Band-Aid off, there's a lot of confidence that can come from it.
The third theme is the role of managers matters. Across every episode, the importance of managers repeatedly surfaced. Employees often experience the workplace through their direct managers. Managers are frequently the first people to notice changes in behavior, performance, or engagement. But managers are not mind readers, and many managers themselves are under pressure. The question therefore becomes, how do we equip managers to have better conversations? How do we help managers recognize warning signs? And how do we create cultures where people feel safe enough to be honest? Simple questions can make significant difference. How are you doing? How are things outside work? What support would you like right now? Or what support would help you right now? These conversations don't solve every problem, but they often create the opportunity for support to begin.
There was a marketing manager in the Jockey Club who has just been awarded £996,000 injury to feelings and compensation for unfair dismissal because he kept putting his hand up and saying, I am not coping, and his employer did 3/5 of nothing to help. And you can imagine the legal costs involved in that, let alone the financial costs and the reputational costs. And just to chuck a little bit more fuel on the fire, as if that wasn't enough, if the HSE come knocking, it is under the sphere of criminal law, not civil law. So, the difference there, the Equality Act, yes, disability discrimination comes with an uncapped liability. The average payout is now over 100 grand and the highest is 4.6 million, which is staggering sums of money. But the psychological health piece under the management standards at work, that's criminal. The directors of the business technically can go to prison. I'm not aware of anybody having been sent to prison on this topic, but that doesn't mean I'm a director of my own business. I don't want to take that risk.
The point,
Mary, as everybody knows, we are all different. We're all different colours, shapes, sizes. But the one thing that we all have, some of us more refined than others, but we all have it, is intuition. And if your intuition tells you that something is not right with a human being in your workplace, it is better to say, just quietly, I'm concerned. Is there anything I can do to help? And a lot of people may well say, no, I'm fine. But you've done the right thing. It is better to ask than wait for something to blow up. This is an age-old phrase. Everybody knows it. Prevention is better than cure.
The fourth theme is well-being is about more than mental health. When we hear the word mental well-being, many people immediately think about mental health. Mental health is hugely important, but well-being is broader than that. Financial well-being affects mental well-being. Physical health affects mental well-being. Workplace relationships affect well-being. Psychological safety affect well-being. Purpose, belonging, identity, and connection affect well-being. The reality is that people bring their whole selves to work. We cannot separate someone's financial worries from their workplace performance. We cannot separate burnout from productivity. We cannot separate physical health from employee well-being. The conversations we've had over recent weeks therefore reinforces the need for a truly holistic approach to well-being in the workplace.
My belief from what I've experienced is that for most people, it's what I'd call an action gap. The information and the tools that most people need to do the fairly sort of standard things within their life, like figuring out their budgets, figuring out how much to pay into their pension, figuring how much they need in terms of insurance and things like that. And then the educational information that they need to understand those things are freely available from reputable places on the internet, and certainly through things like their workplace pension provider or EAP. The trouble is action. And that's really what, I would say a financial well-being strategy should consider, is how can we get people to actually access the stuff that's readily available to them. And from an HR point of view or from an employer point of view, I think a lot of that is getting the communication right and making it easy for people to access the information and the tools that will help them with those particular financial issues.
The next theme is isolation is still a challenge. Several of our guests highlighted the impact of isolation. Some isolation is obvious, sometimes it's not. Remote working and hybrid working have created many benefits, but they've also reduced some of the natural human interactions that once happened every day. The quick chat, the informal check-in, the coffee breaks chats, and the coffee queue conversations that goes on or used to go on a daily basis in the workplace. The opportunity to notice that someone isn't quite themselves. For independent consultants, business owners, and self-employed professionals, this challenge can be even greater. Who notices when you disappear? Who notices when you're struggling? Who checks in? Those are important questions for all of us.
We care. That's it. That's exactly the word, Mary. You're absolutely right with regards to that. And it builds that confidence and that rapport between you, the manager, the HR, and the employee. Yeah. And it means that they open up. Yeah. And once they open up, everything comes out. And then you realize, and then you start thinking, why hadn't they opened up a month ago? Yeah. You know, why leave things until it reaches this stage? Because the next step would be that the person takes time off because of sick leave, or they end up burnt out. And if they end up burnt out, it's very difficult for them to come back because they then absolutely dislike coming back to work.
Then the fifth theme is early intervention changes outcomes. Perhaps the strongest message from all 4 episodes is this: early intervention matters. Whether we are talking about mental health, financial well-being, burnout, stress, men's health, physical health conditions, workplace relationships. The earlier support is available, the better the outcome is likely to be. Waiting rarely makes things easier, and more importantly, avoiding the conversation altogether mostly complicates things and rarely resolves any problems. Conversations matter, support matters, signposting matters, occupational health matters, employee assistance programs matter, and community matters. And sometimes simply asking someone if they are okay can make a bigger difference than we realize.
Mary, there's a couple of reasons. One of them, unfortunately, men, it's very difficult for them to talk. And they find it very difficult to express their concerns. Mm-hmm. Even to close family, it's very difficult. Then it's even more difficult to their manager, because then they're concerned, if I open up now, will they find faults in my work? Mm. And so it's a double-edged sword. Yeah. And it's the relationship that the manager has with that employee. Yeah. And if the employee feels confident enough, then they will divulge information which they normally wouldn't do unless they were with their friends or in a very close environment type of thing. So I think that it's very difficult in that state. The other thing is, because they're considered as the breadwinners, it's changed now slightly because both men and women are both considered as breadwinners. But in the past, it used to be breadwinners, men mainly. They're concerned that if they show some weakness and it then affects the work, will it then affect their family, especially financially? Yeah. So it's very difficult for people to open up. And the other thing is, men, it's very difficult for them to approach their GPs, and especially for mental health reasons. They may approach for other conditions, but it's still unlikely. And it's usually the wife or the fiance who pushes them towards seeing a GP. And then once you've seen the GP, etc., then you can start that medical line and get medication and treatment, etc. But it's very difficult taking that initial step. So I think the whole purpose of something like this podcast is that it makes managers aware that if they have any concerns, to open up that dialogue. You know, how are you feeling? Are there any concerns? Is there anything that I can do to help? Would you like the employee assistance program? Is that anything that would be useful to you, etc., etc.? And maybe one of the things that I found out with my experience is that if the manager or HR have any concerns, then to refer that employee at an earlier stage to occupational health, because we are the specialists and we're that link between work and the employer, the employee and the employer, and we can sort of assist them with organizing a plan to manage these individuals. The worst thing is to allow it to fetter. If you allow it, it builds up. Eventually, they go off either burnt out or as they go off on long-term sick leave. And then it's very difficult then for them to return back to work, unfortunately.
For those of us working in HR and people professions, these conversations also serve as a reminder to look after ourselves. Many HR professionals spend their days supporting others, listening, solving problems, managing difficult situations, supporting leaders, supporting employees, supporting businesses, but who supports the supporter? Who supports HR? The same principles apply to us. We need support networks. We need boundaries. We need trusted people around us. And we need to pay attention to our own well-being, as well as encouraging others to pay attention to this. And more to that point, that is why, particularly for HR consultants, there are a lot of support networks out there, including the HR independence community that was specifically established to provide support for independent HR professionals across the UK.
Yep. Mary, you know, as everybody knows, we are all different. We're all different colours, shapes, sizes. But the one thing that we all have, some of us more refined than others, but we all have it, is intuition. And if your intuition tells you that something is not right with a human being in your workplace, it is better to say, just quietly, I'm concerned. Is there anything I can do to help? And a lot of people may well say, no, I'm fine. But you've done the right thing. It is better to ask than wait for something to blow up. This is an age-old phrase. Everybody knows it. Prevention is better than cure.
If there's one thing I've taken away from the recent conversations, it's this. People don't need to be in crisis before they deserve support. Whether someone experiencing financial stress, mental health challenges, physical health concerns, burnout, or simply feeling overwhelmed, support should be available before things reach a breaking point. As workplaces, leaders, and HR professionals, we have an opportunity to create environments where people feel safe to speak up and supported enough to seek help. And sometimes that starts with something very simple: a conversation, a check-in, and picking up the phone.
And for me, just for those who've not listened to that episode, number 57, the focus there is on about having the right support network around us that's fit for purpose for the way forward. And in this industry, in this HR industry, where the majority of you that are listening are based within, we are brilliant at fixing everybody else's problems and challenges, but not necessarily great at looking after number one. And so the whole elements around mental wealth is about that yin to the yang, where negative mental health takes us down a spiral of challenges, depression, and problems and work that goes with that. Whereas positive mental wealth means we've got brilliant people around us asking better questions than we can ask of ourselves, reaching out and holding us accountable for the things we say we're going to do, and helping us achieve more, both personally and professionally.
Thank you very much for listening to HR Voices. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your colleagues, with your network, and anyone who may benefit from these extremely important conversations. And as always, if there's a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us at hrvoices@hrindependent.co.uk. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of HR Voices. If you have a topic you'd like us to cover or would like to be a guest, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media or email us at hrvoices@hrindependence.co.uk. Tune in next time.